what's the UK's broad strategy for Africa in working towards a common market?
Yeah, well, look, I think we've heard from the exceptional presentation this morning from the Minister, the advantages of a free trade area in Africa. And the UK is very supportive of that. We've been providing some technical assistance to the African Union to facilitate and enable those discussions to move forward at pace. And I think we've been really impressed at the speed with which we're making real progress. We're seeing real progress in Africa. From my perspective, where I'm trying to encourage more UK companies to consider doing business in Africa, and those that are already there to expand their business, actually the message is very clear and very consistent that economies of scale do matter. And the ability to move goods and deliver services across national borders is a really enticing prospect for investors and potential investors and exporters. And so when we look across to East Africa, for example, and we see some of the progress that's being made there in the East Africa community, and we can see the sort of the uptick in business interest in that part of the continent, I think that tells us the story of how powerful this continental free trade area really can be. And it's more than just the numbers, I think. I mean, the numbers are really exciting. If you think about that, almost immediate 25% increase in GDP and trade flows. But it's the real stories that underpin that. It's the companies that will be able to grow their businesses, because suddenly, rather than 10 million people, they're able to export to 1.2 billion people, and just the scale up of that and the implications for families, communities, businesses, I think is extraordinary and will be absolutely transformational.
Are there any specific sectors that the UK is targeting? Would you like to tell us about those sectors, and how will these translate into jobs, economic growth and development in Africa?
Well, I think what we're looking for is that neat fit between what the UK is good at and what Ghana and other countries across Africa are also good at. You know, how do we complement one another in that? Traditionally, when we look at the trade and investment relationship that we've had, it's been in sectors like infrastructure, energy production, and particularly oil and gas. But I think, and mining, and I think those are and will continue to be really important sectors in our relationship with Ghana. But I think what we're also seeing, and that the summit on Monday really helped to draw out, is just how quickly we're seeing diversification and the connectivity that we can create, the power of those connections across sectors like healthcare, education, financial and professional services, and really seeing technology and innovation at the heart of those relationships. And that for me is very exciting, because we're seeing the entrepreneurs in Ghana, in other parts of Africa, creating all sorts of exciting propositions, creating new businesses. And part of the Ghana UK story this week has been the agreement for our stock exchanges to work closer together as a really important way to drive capital flows into Ghana, to support entrepreneurs and to support the growth of businesses and the creation of those all-important jobs.
Thank you. Right, so my next question is directed to Afua. Could you please tell us about some of the work that GEPA is doing to ensure increase in exports from Ghana to the larger African markets?
So we took into consideration the AFTA and the fact that its headquarters even sits in the same building as GEPA. And we have started a roadshow to educate the exporter community in Ghana about what the AFCTA is all about. We are trying to unpack it for them, we need to make them understand what it means. People were quite apprehensive about this whole agreement, that the market is going to be swamped with products from other countries, and this is going to affect the Ghanaian exporters. So we needed to go on this road trip to educate them and break it down and let them see the advantages in this whole program that is in Ghana. We also have our export school. And at this export school, we are giving training to the exporters. So it's not just about training about what to do just in Ghana, but what the international market expects from them, what the African market expects from them, what the region requires, what market needs they will have to meet in other regions. Somebody asked about if Ghana has the same products as Nigeria. How are we going to deal with that? And I can assure you that in Nigeria, when we sent our gari there, it's sold like wildfire. Meanwhile, Nigeria produces gari. There must be something about what we do in Ghana to make it sell that fast in Nigeria. And it's, as my boss said, it's about industrialization. We may be doing ours in a different way. So these are some of the issues that we talk to our exporters about when they come to the export school, about packaging, about design. Things will have to be done differently from now onwards. The Ghanaian market needs to experience good products, so as the African market. So it's not just for export, but for even home consumption. And we have created a services department because we need to export our services as well. So this is a newly created department which is also working on exporting services and improving on services in Ghana. We are linking our exporters to financial institutions to support them. We have EXIM supporting, but we think we need more support. And so we have had a series of fora between the financial services and our exporters, and it's yielding good results. We've opened them up to expos outside. We've opened them up to see what pertains in other countries. And we are also looking at the priority areas of our exports. What are the exports that we think, the products that we think are priority pertaining to Ghana, and working on them, working on the whole value chain, so that we know that when we go out there with our products, we are succeeding.
So
we are looking at certification.
I just want a clarification on those priority areas. Have you defined them already, or?
Yes, it's all part of our national, it's been defined.
Okay,
in our national export strategy, my boss talked about some. I can break them down to the products. You're talking about cocoa, you're talking about cashew, you're talking about textiles, you're talking about shea butter, you're talking about agric processing, adding value to what we have, the pineapples, which we have already started. You've heard about the eku drink and all of that. So these are the priority areas, oils, and we are looking at them. We are looking at certification. So because we need to make sure that we are working within the standards. And these are some of the things we are doing to prepare our exporters for what is coming.
And how are we going to prevent other countries from also dumping the products on our market and then?
I don't think it's about dumping, it's about competition.
Okay.
And we have certifications that you have to meet. We have criteria that you have to meet to take goods from one place to the other. So it's not about dumping. Actually, we need to take advantage of this and not think about dumping, but think about being competitive.
Right. That takes me to free zones. So Kwame, the Honourable Minister spoke about infrastructure in place and those that are being developed, improved upon. And I know that we have the free zones enclaves. And so could you please tell us a little bit more about the specific infrastructure available and what else to expect to ensure that we take advantage of this?
Thank you, Adjoba. Yes, we are all talking about Ghana industrializing to fit into the after. And this is one of the core mandates of the Free Zones Authority. Because under the Free Zone, we are supposed to be the gateway to West Africa by creating the conducive environment for investors to come. And among them is to create industrial parks, special economic zones. One of the challenges facing industries or investors in Ghana is access to land. Normally, they come under the issue of multiple sales of land. So it's the duty of the Free Zone Authority to get land banks free from all land litigation, and with the help of the ministry and the government, put in all the necessary infrastructure, water, electricity, drainage, access roads, so that it will be like plug and play. These days, we live in a global world. Investors can't wait. They have to produce to meet export market. And Ghana is not the only country exporting to meet this global market. So with this infrastructure in place, investors can be assured that when they come in, they can start production within some few days.
So is this in place or it's a plan?
Already there's one in place at Tema, which is working effectively. And we are developing other areas like the Sekendi Industrial Park, the Shama, the Ashanti, and we are even getting land in the north to put up industrial park. One thing about the free zone concept is that we say the whole Ghana is a free zone area, meaning companies can locate anywhere in Ghana and access the free zone incentive. And this will even, as the minister said, will curb this rural-urban drift. If I live in my village and I get a job, why do I come to Accra, Tema, and then waste my time? So under the special economic zone, one district, one factory, all these things is being put under the Free Zone Authority, so that together with the ministry, we industrialize Ghana for the benefit of Ghana to fit into the after concept.
Right, thank you. Lawrence, so what does the Ghana EXIM Bank have to offer in terms of support, in terms of packages, and how are these being offered for people wanting to take advantage of the African Common Market?
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, all of this has to do with funding. And that is why yesterday, for us to become the principal financial institution to support exports, we had to go to the market to raise $100 million. This is going to give a boost to the one district, one factory that we've already started. We've done almost about 85 projects in Ghana, cutting across poultry, pharmaceuticals, cocoa processing, shea butter, greenhouses, fruit processing. You've heard if we are talking about eco juice. We're going to have watermelon, fertilizer blending. Again, my colleague from Free Zone also mentioned about the special economic zones, industrial parks. EXIM Bank is going to support also the industrial park with collaboration from Afri-EXIM. So at the core of all of this, ours is to provide funding and to make sure that, one, we'll build the capacities of the Ghanaian exporters, and also to make them competitive. In making them competitive has to do with cost of funding. And with it, ours is quite a low interest rate and also a long-term financing, because you cannot industrialize with a short-term funding or using commercial banks. And that is why we have set up an EXIM Bank to make sure these two critical issues are solved: access to finance, long-term financing, and an interest rate that would also give them capabilities. Not only that, we also sponsor a lot in terms of helping them to attend fairs all over the world to be able to make sure they learn and build up their capacity and standardizing as well. Because if you go to Magic and you go to other places, you see how the whole world is moving. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. When you go and you benchmark with other competitors, you come back and realize that you need to either buy certain equipment or build your capacities that are in cutting in the garment industry and all those. And so for us in EXIM Bank, if you even talk of garment alone, where we think Ghana has quite a competitive advantage, as we speak, There is a company in Ghana that exports to USA almost about $1 million every month, taking advantage of agua. And we think in the West African zone, now with the president wearing made in Africa, made in Ghana clothing, if we can concentrate on garment alone and push it, we have 1.2 billion in the whole of Africa. So it's an area that, one, will create employment for our people, two, will give economic empowerment to our women, and three, will also make sure that at least we rake in foreign exchange. On the shea butter, it's being sold raw. We have the body shop in UK buying from Tamale. For the past 1 year, EXIM Bank has put in almost about 20 million Ghana cedis, call it about, let's say, $2 million, in making sure that the whole value chain, from collectors to aggregation of the shea butter, and also processing and packaging is being worked on. So all those things are being done to take advantage of the continental free trade that we're talking about.
Great.
So Ghana is leading the way, and I think we've started quite well, and all the policies are in place, and we think that we are ready to take advantage and lead the continental free trade.
So are we to understand from what you've just said that your focus also is on the same priority areas as GEPA? Because you talked about certain...
I said we are export and import bank.
Okay.
So we are supporting exports, and the strategy is that we have to cut down import substitution.
Right.
So using the Singapore and the Korean model, you would want to make sure that you support CAPEX to make sure we turn around our raw materials.
Right.
How do you how will the British government, can you detail what kind of support the British government will provide to British investors who are particularly interested in energy investments into Ghana?
Traditionally, our focus has been very much on supporting UK exporters. What we've seen over the last year is a shift of focus to be supporting investors as well. We recognise that often the same commercial activity involves a bit of both. So the investment summit that we had on Monday was a sort of an illustration of our intent and our ambition. I have a trade and investment team across 23 markets in Africa, and an excellent team in Ghana. So my first step would be to connect you with them. They're very well networked into the Ghanaian community to understand what the opportunities are, to help you navigate the business environment, to understand who are the movers and shakers in Ghana that you need to connect with, and to understand what the opportunities are and how what that sort of business environment is. So through our country director in Ghana would be step one, and we would take it from there.
Hi, thank you so much. Nana Ampofo with Songhai Advisory. My question was about complementarity of industrial strategy with some of the other nations in the region. So given that we're going to be having, there are similar ambitions being described by our neighbours in the region. Just to what extent is the thinking here joined up with that of our neighbours? So a supply chain cutting across borders.
If things are working well, then there has to be a regional strategic approach to determine who produces what to sell to whom. Now, but as you know, it has elements of national strategy and elements of regional strategy. So, for example, we have identified our strategic areas, those that we are targeting for the African market, those that we are targeting for other international markets. Now, so we are linking up through our own network with other countries as to what kind of value chain arrangements we can work on. So, for example, Liberia, we are focusing on developing an auto industry, and we want to become one of the leading manufacturing hubs for automobiles and vehicles. Now, there are thousands of parts in a car, and the key to the auto industry is component parts. So even though we are leading in terms of being a manufacturing hub for automobiles, it doesn't mean that we should produce all the parts. So, for example, Liberia has a very strong industry, rubber industry. They process rubber. The Firestone has an operation there. They do ties. So let's say we can be working with Liberia as a supplier of some of the components. And Nigeria, next door, we work very well together with Nigeria. If they have a company that can produce batteries, then that becomes the focus of what they would. So first, I think at the national level, each of us has to define exactly what kind of role they want to play. Some may not be interested, and it's not something you can force any country to do. But through collaboration, as ministers, we also have meetings, regular meetings that we use to discuss some of these things. So I don't know whether I've answered your question, but basically it's at the national level and at the regional level.
I just wanted to follow through on the question about environmental and climate action, and particularly about small-scale mining and the damage that Galamsey is doing to the environment, and how that can be turned around to a training program leading towards fair trade golden certification, because that is key to the damage that's happening in the environment, and how a supply chain can be developed from Ghana to the UK and beyond.
From EXIM Bank point of view, we came out with a product called Alternative Livelihood for the Mining Sector. With that, we attempted to move away those who are into mining into an export-related activities in terms of the agribusiness. For which reason, we financed a farmer to make sure that those areas that have mining-related issues, either in Obuasi or in Ashanti region or in the Eastern region, they will go into the poultry value chain by planting cereal that will be used as a feed mill for the poultry. Again, working with Indian EXIM Bank, we have developed a product for metal or mining fabrication in terms of migrating those who are into the Galamsey to use those who have been licensed to do the small-scale mining, the raw material for things like earrings and those areas. So that product will come and look at the environmental space so that all of these things will have some form of moving away people into an export-related activities to help the country. That's what is being done now.
40 years I've been into manufacturing in textile, tractor components manufacturing, so 52% Fiat tractor was developed in my company. I want to give a takeaway to you people. I've got a lot of experience of manufacturing and industrial park. My takeaway to you is that I'm interested in setting up micro city and micro industrial park. In 2020, I'm planning to do that in Ghana. I've just completed few projects in Nigeria and Kebbi State, and so my advantage is that you can set up an industrial park, but who's going to run it? So the angle is this, that you should make sure that if somebody comes to you for setting up an industrial park, if they can bring the industrialist along with them, that will be the best thing, because setting up an industrial park, making such a big investment, end of the day you want your return as well. So I just thought to let you know that in future this will help you.
What we normally look at is companies that are coming to set up industrial parks with anchor tenants, meaning when you come, you have other companies that you are bringing to Ghana, and we are ready to work with you. I can meet you after this discussion, and then we talk into details about how best we can help you establish your privately owned industrial park in Ghana under the Free Zones Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, Emma, Kwame, Afua. Thank you.